You had a bad home inspection. Nobody likes those. Even though things may not look that great right now, I'm here to tell you that you can actually work things out and hopefully have a fantastic outcome. And I'm going to show you how to do it. This is Monday Mornings with Mark. Hi, I'm your host, Mark J. Schmidt of RE/MAX Country and MoveMeMark.com, where I help you get the most out of the real estate market and your home. If you're new here, be sure to subscribe to our channel on YouTube and make sure you like us on Facebook so you don't miss out. When you have a bad home inspection, it's the worst. You know, from the buyer's perspective, if you're buying a home and you have a bad home inspection, you feel terrible. Here you are, you've put all your hopes and dreams into this home you're about to buy. You've told all of your friends and family, hey, we just found this great house, and now you're figuring out, hey, we're gonna put the couch over here and the TV over here and the dog's gonna go running through there, and you're so excited. And then you have a bad home inspection and it just feels awful. And then from the seller side, the buyers have the home inspection on your home and you're thinking you took pretty good care of your home, and then they find stuff and then you feel terrible. Well, listen, even though things may seem a little dire, there are some things you can do that are going to help you get through the process and actually help you have a good outcome. Now, I'm going to tell you something. What I'm telling you today really applies to homes that are sold in New Jersey. Other states may have different standards and different rules in effect. Doesn't matter. A lot of what I'm talking about today will be universal. You can use it anywhere. But if you are out of New Jersey, make sure you just check with your local area to make sure that what you're doing is good. So with that said, let's get started with the buyers first. So the first thing you want to do if you're a buyer and you have a bad home inspection is don't panic. Depending on what can come up, listen, there are some things that are going to come up that you're just not going to be able to get over them. If you have something major that comes up, like a foundation problem, the house is crumbling, or you find out that it's actually riddled with mold, something like that, something that's going to be really just a little too insurmountable. Yeah, these things do happen. However, most items that come up during a home inspection are going to be things that you can definitely work out. So don't panic. You can actually work out like 99% of things that come up during a home inspection. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to have the seller either make repairs or offer you a credit for the things they don't feel like repairing. You and your attorney can put together a list of what you'd like to ask for, and you're going to have it sent over to the seller's attorney. Now, when the seller's attorney gets it, remember, this is going to be sort of a negotiation, just like when you were negotiating the sale price of the house. They're going to look at it and they're going to say, listen, okay, well, we agree with that. We'll take care of that, but you're crazy to ask for that. And, we'll look into that. So this is kind of a time when you're going to have to go back and forth and figure out what they're going to be willing to do and what they're not going to be willing to do. Now, here in the state of New Jersey, if you make a home inspection request and the seller says no to any part of it, legally, you can kill the contract. You can kill the deal and move on to another home. That doesn't happen that often. Most people are pretty reasonable when it comes down to working out the items in a home inspection request. But if you find that the seller is being much too unreasonable for you, you do have that option to walk away. Now, one thing you might need to do is you may need to either get estimates for items that you'd like, repaired, especially if you're looking for a credit, or you may need to get a second opinion from a professional. So during a home inspection, a home inspector will look at something and listen, they're very good at doing a basic home inspection, but there might be things that come up that they say, listen, you need to get a second opinion. Just like when you go to your doctor and your doctor says, gee, you've got that mole on your shoulder, you want to get that checked out. Same thing with a home inspector. They're going to look at something and they may say, hey, you know what? I just looked in the chimney here at the fireplace, and you're going to want to get a second level chimney inspection where you get a professional chimney inspector to come in and do a little more in-depth, more thorough inspection of that particular either chimney, or maybe it's a foundation, whatever you need. So you may need to get a second opinion from a professional before you move forward. Now remember, just because something might look bad doesn't mean it's going to be bad. So getting that professional in to give you a second opinion can make all the difference. At the same time, just because something looks bad doesn't mean that the seller is automatically going to say no to taking care of it. They may be very reasonable and they'll say, listen, you know what? We understand that's an issue. We want to keep you happy as the buyer of our home, so we're going to take care of it. Stay positive through the process. It really does help a lot. Most importantly, while we want the seller to be reasonable, you as the buyer should also be reasonable. If you're going to be hitting the seller with a laundry list of 50 items that you want them to repair, they're probably going to look at that and say, this buyer is just trying to take advantage of us. They're not being serious. Don't get involved in that. Really pick out the things that you think are going to be the most important. If they're health issues, if they're safety issues, structural things of that nature. Feel free to ask for those things. But as I like to say, if the kitchen faucet handle is a little jiggly, don't bother asking for stuff like that. Be reasonable, be serious, and then, you know what? If you're reasonable, the seller is also going to be reasonable with you. So with that being said, let's take a look at the seller side of things. The first thing you want to do as a seller when you get that home inspection request is don't get offended. A lot of times I see sellers and they go, oh my gosh, this person, they're crazy asking for these things. How dare they? So I have to admit, when my wife and I were selling our home in 2016, we had multiple offers on our home and the buyers we chose had their home inspection and not much came up during the home inspection, but I was still like, what? These people are crazy. We've kept such good care of our home and now they're asking us for things. So I was way off there. We work things out with our buyers and you're going to do the same with yours. So the first thing is don't get offended. Now listen, if you do get offended, if you are outraged that these people asked for things or found things, the first thing you want to do is calm down before you respond. Don't just start writing back or having your attorney write back to the other attorney and start talking about how outraged you are that they had dared to ask you for these things. Take a minute, calm down, read through what they sent you, and then figure out what is going to be your best option moving forward. The one thing you don't want to do, and I've seen people do this and it's a mistake, is start refuting all of the home inspector's findings. I had a client once who, they had a home inspection on their home. The home really was not in bad shape, but the home inspector found some things that were a little questionable. So I told my client, here's what you do. You have your attorney send this back to the other attorney and you have him say, listen, we are willing to have someone come in and look at what you found and see if it really is a problem. We're willing to get a second opinion. Instead of doing that, they went through and they refuted everything the home inspector said. Well, they said the home inspector was wrong for saying that and the home inspector was wrong when he found that. And really, what do you think the buyer is going to do? The buyer is not going to look at your, screed that you wrote to them and say, you know what? He's right. I hired an idiot for a home inspector. I should just go with what this homeowner says who has no actual formal training in home inspections. Of course, they're not going to do that. So what you do is you say, listen, we're going to find someone who's going to give us a second opinion. There's no reason that your deal has to die because you're getting offended and the home inspector may have found things that you disagree with. Do some more homework. Get someone in to really tell you maybe it is a problem, but maybe this expert can tell you that it isn't, and you can work that out with the buyer. Now, if you do find something, and it is actually a problem, your options are to have it repaired yourself or to offer a fair credit. Now, I say fair credit because, listen, this is a negotiation. So you don't have to give them top dollar to fix everything in your home, but you should be able to offer them something that's going to be fair to you and fair to them, and it's going to help them get, fixed what they need to get fixed. Now, here's something to consider. If your deal should fall apart, if your transaction should die, if you can't work things out with the buyer, remember the buyer has the option to walk away. There is nothing keeping that buyer tied to buying your home. So if the buyer walks away, you may have a slight challenge. Because if you now know that something is wrong with your home, legally, you have to disclose it to the next buyer. So before that next buyer even makes an offer on your home, you really need to fill out the seller's property condition disclosure statement. That's what's popularly known as a seller's disclosure. And on there you have to write, yeah, you know what, they found some mold, or there was a slight problem with the foundation that we have fixed. Whatever it is, you're going to have to disclose that to the next buyer and ask yourself, are you going to be able to get as much money for your home if you disclose that you had a problem and now the next buyer might have to deal with that as well? So consider that. If it's something major, you may want to see if you can work it out with your current buyer rather than, rolling the dice and seeing if you can get another buyer to cooperate with you. There's something important to remember. Just because you're on opposite sides of the transaction, just because you might be the buyer and they might be the seller or vice versa, that does not mean that this has to be an adversarial relationship. You don't have to fight with each other. You're not working against each other. Remember, you all want the same thing. You as the buyer want to buy a home, and you as the seller want to sell your home. You all have the same goal, for that title of that home to transfer from one party to the other. As I heard someone say once, a good negotiation is not where one person is pitted against the other, but it's two people coming together to solve a problem. That is extremely true, especially in the case of home inspections. So if you keep that in mind, if you try to be reasonable and keep an open mind about things, you'll have absolutely no problem getting through the home inspection process, even with a bad inspection. Now listen, if you have questions about home inspections or about buying or selling a home, there's a fantastic resource. It's my website. You can find me at www.MoveMeMark.com. Thanks so much for watching. If you missed our last episode, I've got it right here for you. And here's another episode that YouTube thinks you should watch. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you hit that circle and subscribe so you don't miss out. And I'll see you next time for more Monday Mornings with Mark. You have a great week.